What's up, you beautiful collectors and action figure fans? It's the one and only Optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And on today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the new NECA Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time Slash. And this is literally the only figure in this new assortment that I actually wanted. The reasoning is because the other ones are just re-releases that came out in either a San Diego Comic-Con or a New York Comic-Con exclusive box set. I'll get into more of that here in a little bit. For the package though, really nice package. You got that nice open window that fully showcases the figure. You got some nice animated images of the turtles there. Turtles in Time, which is one of the immensely popular early video games for Ninja Turtles. Come around to the side, you can see a continuation of some of that artwork. Other side has that as well. At the bottom here, doesn't really have much except for some of the people responsible for making the figure. Top section here, Turtles in Time. Come around to the back, and this is what I was talking about. This is the only real new figure. Leo, Donnie, and then the Foot Soldier in this first wave of the Turtles in Time figures are just reissues. Now, they come with some extra accessories, like they come with hoverboards and such, but I already had these, and honestly, I only got them because I thought that was going to be the only way that we were going to get this look for the Turtles. And by that, I mean a cartoon style. That was kind of before we really knew that NECA likes BSing a lot of collectors, and eventually we got these actually in their cartoon color scheme. So I never opened these, and I sold them because I didn't care to have them look like that. As I said, I only thought we were going to get that kind of aesthetic because they did it up to look like the video game. But then you also have a larger image of Slash here on the side. And while, yes, this is how Slash looked in the video game, there's a little bit more to it. But for the packaging on this guy, that's about it. So without further ado, let's get him out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Slash opened up and out of his packaging. And you know, I have a very public love-hate relationship with NECA. I love them because they're literally the only company that is giving me Ninja Turtle figures in the look and style that I want. I hate them because forever their quality control has been absolute crap. And because I've been very vocal about it, the other part that really drives me nuts is that they choose to never talk to me. Which is very unfortunate because we used to have a great relationship. But if anything is ever said about me, it is that I am very blunt. And sometimes some companies don't like that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to call it like I see it. And if something goes wrong, I'm going to bring attention to it. Now, as I said, quality control has always been a problem with NECA toys. And I've been collecting them for some time, whether it be their Predator line, their Terminator line. I didn't collect the Pacific Rim figures, but a lot of people complained about those. And of course, I collect their Ninja Turtle stuff. And I don't know how many times I constantly have heard NECA say that they have changed their factories, that they recognized problems and they corrected them. And yet we still get the same issues, primarily being that joints on these figures are ridiculously fragile and more often than not frozen in place, which ends up resulting in when you try to articulate the figure, the joints and arms or legs or whatever the case may be snap. In getting ready to film this review, this figure broke. Now, I have since fixed it, but I'm going to put a picture right here. As you can see, the neck completely broke on him. Now, I did the customary, use hot water, use the hairdryer, all that kind of stuff. I did all of that before moving the joints on the figure, and it still snapped. Now, I have since glued it, and it's on there. I don't know how sturdy it is, but it is attached for the most part. It's not coming off. You can kind of see that the base here where it broke can't still rotate, so I must have got the glue on like the part that I needed to, and then the upper ball joint, you can still rotate that around. But like this arm is still really stiff. This one is still really stiff. In terms of bending the knees, as you can see, it's a double joint. This one bends, this one doesn't. And then this one, the upper one that didn't bend on this one bends, and then the lower one doesn't. So still all sorts of problems with the figure, and when I went to Twitter and complained about it, it wasn't NECA that reached out to me, it was Big Bad Toy Store. They sent me a brand new figure, no questions asked. And, you know, I mean, I love the figure, I really do. He looks fantastic. And I don't want that to overshadow the review, but I do want to make it known to people that you absolutely have to be very careful with NECA products. These figures are very hard to get. I still haven't found Bebop or Rocksteady. More than likely, I'm going to have to buy them on eBay and pay probably twice the retail price. And in doing so, I'm not going to have the protections of like Big Bad Toy Store to replace it in case something happens. So just be very careful. Use the hair dryer, use boiling water, whatever the case may be. This one, I've managed to get all the joints to work with the hair dryer trick, but again, all the joints were pretty much frozen on them. But the figure itself really is fantastic. Now, in the beginning part of the video, I talked about how this does look how he appeared in the Turtles in Time video game, specifically the Nintendo version, or Super Nintendo version. The regular arcade version did not have him as a character in the game. It wasn't until it was ported over to the SNES that they I forgot the character, but they replaced him with Slash. But the other thing, and I've talked about this, but the other thing that I've watched other people do reviews of this, and none of them mention it. They all proclaim to be Ninja Turtle fans, but they don't ever mention that this is also how Slash looked in the original Archie comics. In terms of a timeline, the Mirage comics came out first. Those were what established the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Then we got the cartoon, and a little bit after that, we got the Archie comics. Now, the Archie comics kind of followed more or less the line of the cartoons. So while this guy does not look how he looked in the cartoon, he does nicely recreate how he looked in that Turtles in Time cartoon and the original Archie comics, which for me is fantastic. NECA did a good job of picking this guy because he kind of fits both of those sort of groups. And while this is painted to look like that video game representation, as you can see with the pixelated detail there, it's subtle enough that you can also use this in a comic book display, which is what I'm going to do. Now, for his accessories, he comes with two of them. He has this grenade, which I have no idea why, because I don't remember him using a grenade in the video game. Maybe he used it in the comic. I don't honestly remember. That was so long ago. But I love how they got the two-tone color going on here. You got white on one side, you got this gray on the other side. This is a little bit softer of a material, so be careful with that. But you do get that, and you can kind of just like hook it onto his belt. He also comes with that same kind of shading done to his sword, which again is a nice, accurate, if it focuses on it, representation of the weapon that he used in both the Archie comics and video game. You can see that the edges here are done in this nice gray plastic, whereas this has a white plastic, but you can kind of see it's very chunky looking. I don't know how well that, yeah, you can kind of see it right there. There's a weird chunk to the paint. I don't know if that's meant to be like that. It's kind of ugly, to be honest with you. And then you look at the handle again, you got that really nice white and gray detailing that give it a, you know, cell kind of look. I do like that. The figure itself, though, is great looking. I am noticing that I don't like, well, I gotta fix that knee. The knee joint here seems to kind of, like that little pad there kind of moves around. A lot of the parts on here are reused from the original Turtles. Primarily, I want to say the torso, the arm sections, and then the leg sections. There are obviously bits that are different, and I'll bring in I'll bring in Donatello to do a comparison, but and obviously the head is different. Of course, the shell as well. So they do reuse some bits on here, which is okay. Part of me wishes they went with a completely new mold because he was very different looking than the Turtles, and he was also very much bigger than the Turtles. So it would have been nice to see, but for the comparison, let's bring in Donnie here. Now, again, this is the cartoon representation. They're about the same because obviously they use a lot of the same stuff, like the legs and such. But the bulk of his shell here really does kind of make him look a little bit more bulky. I mean, it's not bad. Ultimately, I am going to, like I said, keep him with my comic book turtles, which is not going to be him. And honestly, the comic book turtles I have are based off of the Mirage comics, so it's still kind of an iffy sort of fit. But they have announced that they are going to be doing a cartoon accurate version of Slash, which I am super excited about. For another comparison, setting these guys here, let's bring in good old Shredhead. And you can see that Shredder is a bigger figure. You can't even see him because obviously Donnie is a teenager, so he's going to be smaller. Good old Shredhead here, though, is obviously going to be a little bit taller because he's, well, an adult. And then for another comparison, here is Toka from the Secret of the Ooze movie, which I've always said, and I don't know if this was ever confirmed or anything, this is the one that transforms, so he's the snapping turtle, but I think that's just a better figure in general. I've always thought that Toka was inspired by Slash, so that's why I brought that up. So there you go. But overall, great detail, like I said. You can see he's got these nice little shoulder pads that are just kind of like stuck on there. Obviously, he's got the elbow pads, the little wrist pegs. He does have these new hands, which are great. Again, you got to be careful with it. He's got these very Shredder-like claws coming out. One thing that I will say is that it's almost like, regarding the frozen joints, it almost feels like when they do these figures, the paint or something is not fully dried, and then they ship them up and they package them and they send them out to us. But one of the things also is, like, you can see right here that they overpaint some things, and when I've made that joint pop, that paint like ends up like flaking away. So like I said, it's almost like when I first got that whole section there, you could see was all purple, and then when I moved the joint around, all that extra paint like fell off. So I feel like that's part of the problem. The figures aren't fully dried yet when they box them up. But you can see that he does have his really cool belt. You got the backwards S right there, goes all the way around. And I like how it's actually attached to the shell, so it stays up there very nicely. But you got a couple extra little pouches and things like that. Come down to the legs. The legs, like I said, are basically the same as the other turtles, same as the upper arm as well as the forearm section. The thigh area and then the calf area are the same, but those knee pads are obviously different. And then the feet are different. You got some nice claws right on there. The shell looks absolutely gorgeous. You come around the back, the front of it, you don't really see it really all that much. From the side, you can see the pixelation, and you can also see it in the back. But like I said, the pixelation is fairly subtle. At least from the front, you don't notice it all that much. So while I never kept these in terms of a video game appearance, this one doesn't, I mean, because obviously it didn't look that good. I wanted the cartoons, you know, but this, it's subtle enough, but I really do like it. Although one thing is weird is when you look at the feet, because they don't have really any of those paint details on the feet, it looks weird and off color. From the front, again, doesn't look all that bad. The side and the back here, it kind of looks like he's wearing booties or something. Now, for his articulation, again, be very careful with it. The head at the upper part here is on a ball joint, so you get a nice range of motion there, and then the lower neck also does rotate. It also does hinge, and that's where you could see it broke. It doesn't hinge a heck of a lot, honestly, so it's almost not even worth having it there, and it just caused a broken piece. But you know, this piece rotates, which is really nice. The shoulders here, again, be very careful with them. When you're moving them around, they get very stiff. I still don't like how these work. And then you put pressure on the connecting point there, so things break on them so often. It's a little bit easier to try and get to where the actual joint is and then lift from there. Don't use it from here and lift, because that, like I said, puts pressure right there. You can see this part bending because of that. It's not doing anything there. So kind of do as much work on the actual joint as possible to get that to move. He does rotate forward and back. He does rotate at the upper part of the bicep. He's got a joint at the elbow, which is nice. You got wrist rotation. It moves forward and back. Come down to the torso. On the inside here, right above the legs, I mean, there's a ball joint right there. So you get a little bit of wiggle waggle, moves forward and back, kind of rotates a little bit, but it's all done right up under here. You can kind of see the piece right there that's actually moving. So that's a nice bit of articulation. The legs here move forward and back. They also move, well, in and out. They rotate at the upper part of the thigh. You do have 2 bends at the knee, and I got both of the joints working on that, which is really cool. And then you do have a ball joint here for the ankle. So all in all, great looking figure. I will give NECA credit all the time for the amazing detail that they put into their figures. The likenesses are amazing. Again, while this does not look how he looked in the cartoon, which is primarily what I'm interested in, it nails the look as that video game character and comic character. So I dig that. The goofy face here is super awesome. But again, I do have to bring into this sharp focus that the overall figure in terms of quality control suffers. Like I said, I got 2 of them, and both of them had ridiculously frozen joints. So without even trying, guys, if you get these figures, just do the heating trick. Like I said, hair dryer, boiling water, whatever you use, do that right away. Do not risk breaking your figures, especially ones like Bebop and Rocksteady, which go for premium prices. It's just not worth it. The figure itself is absolutely worth picking up, as are most of the NECA Ninja Turtle figures. Just be careful. So all that being said, if Slash here is a figure that you would like to add to your collection, he's available right now at Big Bad Toy Store. So for that, I'll put a link right down in the video description where you can go to BBTS and check out availability on this guy, as well as the rest of the wide range of Ninja Turtle figures. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. Remember, if you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would do one very small thing for me. And that's simply just to hit that thumbs up button. That one very small gesture really does go a long way towards helping me out, and I would really appreciate it. I'd also like to send a huge shout out to all of my patrons, who through their continued support help to make reviews like this possible. And for you patrons out there, regardless of the level of contribution, one of you is going to win this extra Slash. Granted, yes, the head is broken, but as you can see, it is attached. Just be careful when you're displaying them. But hey, it gives you a nice display piece. So for information on how you can become a patron, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/optibotimus. And finally, remember, the real trouble with the world is that too many people grow up. Thank you for watching and taking the time to be a kid.